Hey Jexiteers, thanks again for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, my name is Riley and I'm a former Jehovah's Witness. I decided to do a series of videos talking about the things I most dislike about the JW organization. Either things that I disliked while I was a member or things that I've grown to dislike now, looking back on it with the knowledge now that it's a false religion. So this video will be the first in that series, and I'm going to talk about the way how the Watchtower organization redefines words. They will take words that already have an established meaning in the dictionary that everybody knows, and then they'll redefine it, give it a new meaning that is unique to their organization. And not only that, the new meaning that they give this word will either be something negative or at the very least less positive than the word's actual meaning and definition. So why does Watchtower do this? Why do they redefine words? This is a common trademark of cults and high control groups. They redefine words and they actually use words as a tool for keeping their members locked into their organization. There's a purpose behind every single word that they redefine, as we'll come to see later as we go through the list. So without further ado, here is my list of the top 5 words that Watchtower redefines. And first up, we have joy. Now, Watchtower proposes the idea that joy experienced through doing anything other than serving the Watchtower organization isn't real joy. So they have this idea of true joy, which can only be gained by serving Watchtower. Now, in their publications, they won't say true joy can only be gained by serving Watchtower. They will say true joy can only be gained by serving Jehovah. But if you're a former Jehovah's Witness, or if you know anything about the religion, it's more than an established fact that the words Jehovah and the organization are interchangeable. So whenever you see serving Jehovah, what it actually means is serving the Watchtower organization. Now, this idea is just completely ridiculous. Are you really trying to tell me that anyone ever in the entire history of humanity who has ever experienced any kind of joy, it was only if they were serving Jehovah or the Watchtower organization, to be more precise? So if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you've never experienced joy, basically is what they are saying. Or even if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you have experienced joy, but it was through doing something that wasn't connected with the JW religion, that wasn't real joy, because real joy only comes from doing JW related things. I mean, it's laughable as an idea. Now, what is the purpose behind redefining this particular word? Well, everybody wants to be joyful, don't they? So if you can manipulate your members into believing that true joy can only be gained by serving the organization, then that's something that keeps them trapped in the organization, because they no longer believe that joy can be found outside of the group. In short, it's a scare tactic. Okay, so next up we have the word friend. So the way the word friend is used in the JW organization is more of a cultural colloquialism. It's the way that witnesses refer to each other. And it's not even used that way internationally. Here in the UK, witnesses will typically refer to other witnesses as brothers and sisters, whereas in the United States and Canada, I believe, they'll refer to other witnesses as friends. Now, on the surface, this doesn't necessarily seem like a bad thing, because what's wrong with saying that someone is your friend? Well, when this word is used in the context of a high control group or a cult, it reinforces the idea that your friends are only members of that group. So again, it's another scare tactic. It reinforces the idea that friendship can't be found outside of the group. So that's another thing that keeps you locked in. it kind of lays the groundwork for an us and them mentality, which then leads to fearing or even loathing people outside of the group. Another reason why I dislike so much the JW use of this word is because in the Jehovah's Witness organization, all relationships, bar none, whether they are platonic, romantic, or familial, all relationships are conditional. All relationships within the JW organization are contingent on believing the same thing. So to refer to another Jehovah's Witness as your friend is a complete misnomer, because as most reasonable people will agree, real friendships are based on more than that. If a person would completely cut off friendship with somebody simply for the fact that they no longer believed in the same thing, then that wasn't a true friendship to begin with. So it's a complete misnomer for Jehovah's Witnesses to even use that word, and particularly not in that way. At the end of the day, we are all individuals. We all have different thoughts, feelings, ideas, and opinions. And that is one of the positive things about having friends and maintaining friendships. But this actually goes completely contrary to what high control groups and cults are all about. They want to regiment and unify their members in such a way that completely eradicates their individuality. In effect, they want to rewrite everyone's personality according to a template. Okay, so next up is the word lie. Now, we all know what a lie is. It's saying something that is untrue. But the Watchtower organization redefines the word lie as making a false statement to somebody who's entitled to the truth. Now, the significance of that clause, someone who's entitled to the truth, might not be obvious straight away. But by implication, it means that if you make a false statement to someone who's not entitled to the truth, then you're not actually lying. Now, who would fall into the category of people who are not entitled to the truth? And the answer to that question is anybody who the governing body says is not entitled to the truth. The best example of this I can think of is governing body member Geoffrey Jackson's testimony at the Australian Royal Commission. If you're not familiar with what the Australian Royal Commission is, I'll leave a link in the description down below. Well, basically, it was a commission set up in Australia to investigate how incidents of child sexual abuse are handled by various organizations, including the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, Geoffrey Jackson, who is a member of the governing body, gave testimony at one of these hearings, and he lied under oath. I don't want to get sidetracked too much into what he lied about and what questions he was asked. But basically, what allowed him to do that with what I'm sure is an absolute clear conscience on his part is this Jehovah's Witness definition of the word lie. In his mind, the Australian Royal Commission is an entity that is part of this wicked world, okay, in direct opposition to Jehovah. So to him, they weren't entitled to the truth. So it was okay for him to lie. Another example of this is David Gnam, who is actually a lawyer for the Jehovah's Witnesses in Canada. He stood up in court and said that when a person is disfellowshipped from the congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, that normal familial relationships continue, that the ending of the fellowship is only with regards to spiritual things to do with the religion. And I can tell you from personal experience that that is completely false. Again, this is an example of lying to somebody who they deem not to be entitled to the truth. So it's all perfectly fine and okay. Witnesses even have a name for this practice, which is Theocratic warfare, which basically means that witnesses see themselves as kind of like soldiers who are at war with this world, which is controlled by Satan. So when various elements of this world stand in opposition to them and their organization, they literally see them as being the enemy. And in an instance like that, like say for instance, if they've been arrested or if they're in court, these people who they see as being their enemies in a war, that's when theocratic warfare rules apply, and basically you're allowed to lie and it's okay. Now, this practice isn't unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. Scientology, which is another cult stroke high control group, have an almost identical practice which they call fair game, which basically means that you're allowed to lie, cheat, and deceive people who you see as being in opposition to your faith. Okay, next up we have the word worldly. In the JW organization, the word worldly is a noun to describe anyone who isn't a Jehovah's Witness. But it's not just that, it's a pejorative noun. It's almost a slur. And the reason for this is because Jehovah's Witnesses are, in all reasonable definitions of the word, a supremacist organization. They believe that they are the one and only true religion, and they see themselves as being spiritually and morally superior to everyone else because of that. In fact, one of the biggest insults you can give to fellow Jehovah's Witnesses is to say that they are worldly, or to say that they have a worldly spirit or a worldly attitude. And their use of the word in that context really does prove that they look down on people who aren't Jehovah's Witnesses, because if that were not the case, then calling another witness worldly wouldn't really be an insult, but it is. Okay, so that brings us to the final word on the list. The number one word that Watchtower redefines is apostate. Where do I even begin with this one? I cannot sufficiently explain the feelings of fear and revulsion attached to this word in the JW organization. If I were to list the top things that Jehovah's Witnesses are afraid of, it would go like this: the devil, demons, and then apostates. Literally, it is programmed, and I don't use that word lightly, it is programmed into each and every Jehovah's Witness to be absolutely terrified of apostates. It's the equivalent of children being scared of monsters in the cupboard or underneath their bed. When I started waking up to the fact that the Jehovah's Witnesses were a false religion, I remember, I'll never ever forget the first time I intentionally looked up an apostate video on YouTube. My hands were physically shaking as I was typing into the search bar. My hands were literally shaking. I was absolutely terrified. I was sweating and shivering. That's why I use the word programming, because it literally is like you're breaking your programming, and your mind and your body are trying to, it's like you're at war with yourself, you know. And it was really I don't want to say traumatic experience, because that sounds over dramatic, but I can't think of a better way to describe it. It really was terrifying. It's like I felt like demons were going to come out of the screen of my laptop and jump into me simply because I typed the word apostate and watched a video from somebody who self-identified as an apostate. That's how deep-rooted the fear is. And when you understand about cults and high control groups and how they keep their members trapped mentally and emotionally, this all makes perfect sense. It's because if you're imagine you're in charge of a group like this, okay, you're a cult leader or the leader of a high control group, and you want to keep people in. One of the best ways to do that is make them absolutely terrified of people who have left, because they're going to spill the beans. In many cases, people who have left groups like this, they know where all the bodies are buried. You know, they're the whistleblowers. They have the information that the people still inside don't have, because information control is another hallmark of cults and high control groups. They very, very strictly regulate and control the information that their members are permitted to view. And that is exactly the case with Jehovah's Witnesses. You're literally told, not to Google your own religion. But in actual fact, the word apostate is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. There are no, outside of the Jehovah's Witness organization, there are no negative connotations attached to the word at all. It simply means somebody who has rejected a former belief, whether that belief be religious or political. That's it. It's basically somebody who's changed their mind. Why would we be afraid of someone who's changed their mind? Maybe they changed their mind for a good reason. And that's why I have no reservation whatsoever to call myself an apostate or to wear that label. In fact, I've got something to show you. I'll be back in a second. So this t-shirt was a Christmas gift from some very dear friends of mine, real friends. They were friends of mine before I woke up, and they're still friends afterwards. That's what I mean by friends. And I absolutely love this gift. It means a lot to me. It means so much. So Kimmy and Jonathan, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your friendship. Also, I want to say a big shout out to another good friend, Jeannie. Jean, thank you so much. It was seeing an apostate t-shirt similar to the one I have on your Facebook profile picture that got me to start looking into this religion and to what it's really all about. That's the thing that made me ask questions like, why is she so proudly saying that she's an apostate? An apostate is a bad thing. It's a negative thing. It's terrifying. Why is she self-identifying as an apostate? And that made me think, and thinking about that made me start asking questions, and asking questions about that made me do some research. So I have you to thank for that, Jeannie. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share and subscribe. And feel free to tell me in the comments what words you would have added to this list. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.